Hello colleagues, and welcome to today's webinar on NCFE's approach to COVID-19 adaptations for functional skills. My name is Paul White and I am the Head of Provider Development at NCFE. I'm joined today by David Redden, who is our Product Manager for Maths and English, and Jamie Miller, our Assessment Delivery Lead. The purpose of the session today is to share with you the approach we will be adopting to the adaptations of our assessments as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the associated restrictions. The aims for this session are to set the scene in terms of the external environment and the extended extraordinary regulatory framework, referred to as the EERF. We'll set out how we have approached our response to the EERF. We'll summarise our current assessment approach and the changes we are proposing to our functional skills qualifications. We'll provide a demonstration on how you can find the adaptations for each functional skills qualification and signpost you to further support you can get from NCFE. All the links to key documents in the webinar will be circulated in a post-webinar email, which will be sent to the email address you registered with today. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box during the webinar. Let's turn first then to the external environment and the context of today's session. I think it's fair to say that summer 2020 was challenging for everyone involved in education. Whilst it was challenging for awarding organisations, it was an extremely difficult and testing time for our centres, and equally, it was incredibly unsettling for learners. Summer awarding 2020 was governed by the rules set out in the extraordinary regulatory framework. The EERF essentially resulted in centres submitting centre-assessed grades based on a range of evidence as opposed to the usual diet of exams and external assessments. Over the last few months, Ofqual has been consulting and issuing guidance on awarding for 2021. This has resulted in the introduction of the Extended Extraordinary Regulatory Framework, or the EERF. Some of the key points to take from the EERF are that the government's expectation is that assessments should take place in the academic year 2020 to 2021. Where assessments and qualifications cannot progress as they normally would, awarding organisations must consider adapting their assessments and qualifications. Awarding organisations that have used adaptations to mitigate disruption during summer 2020 may also choose to continue to apply some or all of those adaptations in 2020 to 2021. The extended EERF gives a permissive approach to adaptations of qualifications and assessments for 2020 to 2021. This means we are not required to make adaptations if it is not necessary or appropriate to do so. Awarding organisations must have regard to the EERF guidance when determining which approach to take to their assessments and qualifications in 2020 to 2021. The Association of Colleges, the Association of Employers and Learning Providers, HOLEX, the Federation of Awarding Bodies, the Joint Committee on Qualifications and Ofqual have committed to work together, convening a working group to agree how centre-facing communications can be streamlined over the current academic year. As a first step, they have jointly agreed that by the 23rd of October, awarding organisations will have started to communicate to centres their planned approach to any adaptations to their qualifications. This is to assist in mitigating disruption to teaching, learning and assessments, so that as far as possible, learners have the opportunity to receive fair results in 2020 to 2021 and are not disadvantaged by the longer term impacts of the pandemic. NCFE published our blueprint and accompanying advice back in October under this agreed approach. We are delivering this webinar today as an additional resource to summarise the key elements of our approach to functional skills. Through the joint statement, the Working Party are strongly encouraging awarding organisations to keep their centres fully informed as plans develop, and the group will coordinate milestones and communications and address issues arising through the year. So we're now going to provide a short demonstration on how to find the blueprint and the adaptation addendums for each of our functional skills qualifications. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is to give you a brief demonstration of how to find the program level adaptations for functional skills. So if you navigate to the NCFE website, which is www.ncfe.org.uk. On the home page at the top, in the purple banner, you will find the link through to our main COVID hub. On the main COVID hub page, as I scroll down on the left-hand side, you will see a link through to our adaptations section. So on the adaptations page, there are a few things to note. First of all, we have a video which sets out our general approach to adaptations. In the bottom right, you'll be able to see our blueprint document. The blueprint is our 12-page document which takes you through assessment by assessment type of what our current approach is and what our proposed approach is. So for example, number 1 looks at internal assessment. This is a generic document which applies to all assessment types. But today we're going to specifically be looking at those assessments relating to functional skills. We also have a frequently asked questions section, which can be found here. In this section, we curate the most popular questions that have been asked by our customers with regards to COVID and our approach to adaptations. Now going to go through to QualHub, which the link is in the bottom left. And this is our main qualification hub. There are two options, either the legacy functional skills if you still have learners registered on these qualifications. In this short demonstration, we're going to look at the reformed functional skills qualifications by clicking on the link here. This brings us through to the links which take us to each of the individual qualifications. So for example, the NCFE Level 1 Functional Skills in English. This now brings us to the main qualification page, and if you click on the section called Adaptations at the bottom left, this will take you to the foot of the page, and in this section There are a number of different documents ranging from the qualification specification through to the support handbook, etc. But for the purposes of this video, we're interested in the bottom left, which is adaptations. We have a short introduction, and then you're able to download the document. And this document, which is the adaptation addendum, sets out our approach to the assessments that are listed at the top of the page. So you have the qualification reference number and the qualification title to which this addendum refers. And then underneath that, you have the assessment type. So in this instance, multiple choice and short answer questions. You have our current approach to this particular qualification. And then in the right-hand side column, you have the adaptation. Within each of these documents, there are links through to any relevant processes. So for example, in this situation, the special consideration process or the invigilation exception request. And all of our adaptation addendums follow the same consistent format. And this just takes us then back to the main Reformed Qualifications Hub. I hope this demonstration has been helpful. If you require any further information, please contact our customer support team. Thank you. Okay, I hope that was helpful. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Jamie Miller, who's going to talk us through the qualification-specific arrangements. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Paul. I'd like to talk about some of the specific adaptations we have in place or are working towards for our functional skills qualifications. At NCFE, we offer a wide range of functional skills qualifications covering all subjects and all levels across both legacy and reform versions. Therefore, rather than discussing each qualification separately, instead, I'll group them by the different types of assessments to mirror the approach of our blueprint adaptation document. Although, as described by Paul previously, the detailed information for each qualification is available on the relevant qualification page on our website. The first category to discuss is that of controlled internal assessment. This specifically relates to the controlled assessments at entry level 1, entry level 2, and entry level 3 for all 3 functional skills subjects and is present in both legacy and reform versions. For English, please note that this includes the reading and writing assessments, but not speaking, listening, and communication, which we will come to separately. These controlled assessments must still be completed under the required controlled conditions in all cases. However, there is still flexibility already present within the existing model. Centres can choose the date, time, and location of the assessment, just as they always have been able to, which will hopefully allow them to work around any potential disruption they or their learners may face. For clarity, this is a list of the qualifications which include this category of controlled internal assessment. The next category of assessment is the controlled assessment for speaking, listening, and communication, referred to as SLC. This is unique to the English functional skills qualifications, but forms part of the qualification at all levels, from entry level 1 right the way through to level 2 at both legacy and reform. Again, this assessment component remains mandatory with the same content and completed under the same controlled conditions. However, there are some additional flexibilities both already available and introduced as part of our COVID adaptations. Could we just move on to the next slide? Thank you. Again, this can be completed at a date and time that suits the learner and centre. For reformed functional skills, centres already were able to complete this component remotely using video conferencing software, and we have now introduced that as an option for our legacy qualifications as well. And finally, where preparation time previously was required as part of the reform qualification, that now can also be completed remotely under supervision as well. The final category of assessment is our multiple choice and short answer question assessments, which are the externally assessed invigilated components that form part of all qualifications at level 1 and level 2 in both legacy and reform. As with all other categories, these components must still be completed and must still be completed under the necessary invigilated required conditions. However, even within this, there are still existing flexibilities within our offer. Firstly, for both legacy and reform, we offer a paper-based and an online version for these assessments. Our online option is on demand, with learners able to sit an assessment at a date and time that suits both you and them. Our legacy paper-based offer is also on demand. However, our reform paper-based offer is currently available through timetabled assessment windows. We offer the flexibility of a 5-day window in which to book your cohort of learners and offer regular windows within the 2020-2021 session to try to match the demand of our centres. See the external assessment timetable on our website for details of forthcoming assessment window dates. Our assessment variation option is available, and this is aimed primarily at those reform paper-based windows where a centre may wish to request a variation in the location that they are using to accommodate their learners safely. In addition, for the 2020-2021 session, we are also accepting requests to vary from the current requirement that all learners must sit at the same date and time within the window. If, for reasons of isolation or other COVID disruption, you may need to consider more than one sitting of the assessment, then please complete an assessment variation request using the form on our website, and a member of the assessment delivery team will be in touch to continue this discussion. Finally, we also have our Invigilation exception request service still available. This is to allow centres to request flexibility in who can act as an invigilator for a functional skills external assessment, for example, in instances where there are restrictions in who can visit a workplace or assessment location. Again, for further information, please see our website, where we also have some new and updated resources to support with the training of new or existing invigilators. Some additional and proposed flexibilities for the externally assessed components at level 1 and level 2 that are either in place or forthcoming also include the following. We are finalising a partnership that gives our centres access to a nationwide network of test centres. This would mean that they have additional locations to complete functional skills external assessments if their own facilities or learner workplaces are not available as assessment locations. And we hope to have some more information to share on this shortly. Our existing special considerations policy has also been extended in scope somewhat to take into consideration instances where, at short notice, learners may need to isolate and therefore cannot attend an external assessment. For functional skills, this mainly would be relevant for reformed paper-based windows as opposed to our on-demand options that are also available. Please see the special considerations page on our website for further information and make a submission using the online web form if required. We have published on our website an annex to our existing regulations for the conduct of external assessment. Now, this does not remove any of the existing requirements of the invigilated conditions that these assessments must be completed under. However, it does provide some additional support and pointers to centres for some of the challenges that they may face accommodating external assessments in a COVID-safe environment. We are also working hard on a remote invigilation solution, which would allow learners to complete external assessments online in their home or workplace without the need for an invigilator to be physically present in the room with them. But I'll let my colleague David give you more details on this in the next section of this webinar. We have received feedback on the challenges that some centres face with our reform paper-based Windows model that we currently have in place, which we understand and acknowledge. This model is based on our current functional skills approval with Ofqual. However, we are actively investigating the possibility of an on-demand paper-based model for our reformed functional skills offer. And we hope, again, to be able to provide an update to this in the coming months. And finally, the exam support service is offered by the Department for Education and allows centres to make reimbursement claims for a range of costs associated with running external assessments. Now, until recently, it was only available for GCSE and A-levels and a small selection of other vocational qualifications, but not functional skills. However, in November, it was announced that functional skills qualifications will shortly be brought into scope for this. And so please see our website for more information and a link to the relevant details on the DFE website. Finally, before we move on to the next section, here is a list of the qualifications which include an external assessment and therefore would be covered by the Blueprint Category 5, which we have just discussed. Thank you for your time. I'll now let David give you an update on some further updates in additional areas of support.
Thank you, Jamie. We are now going to take some time to focus on the latest update regarding remote invigilation and the work we are doing to offer further options to learners that will allow them access to their assessments. We are aware of the large interest in the use of remote invigilation as a solution to the current challenges providers face in accessing assessments for their learners. NCFE have been working diligently on a solution in this area for a large part of this year, with the aim of providing a working model of this scale that will be able to support the demand while maintaining the validity and reliability of the assessment has been a big challenge. Last month, NCFE were finally in a position to begin a pilot program of our new remote invigilation solution. Mindful that while it was a pilot program, it would still involve live learner assessments. It was vital that we take the necessary precaution to ensure the learner experience was at the centre of what we were trying to achieve. We have started on a small scale, and at each milestone, we have then upscaled the process to stress test our systems and processes. At each stage, we are taking on feedback and applying any improvement to the support we can offer, which will ensure that upon a national launch early next year, your staff and learners will have everything they require for a successful experience. We appreciate that providers will be eager to find out more regarding what the platform looks like and how they can access it. Please be reassured we will continue to update and provide further information as and when it is appropriate to do so. What we can tell you is that we will be launching with a record and review model in the first instance. So what this means is there will be no need for live invigilation, but that enabled providers and their learners complete flexibility on when they can sit their assessments. This format will allow learners to sit at home or in a workplace through a web browser. They do, however, need to abide by the appropriate regulations, so the locations still need to be set in a suitable setting. The assessment is recorded in real time and then reviewed by a quality panel who will flag any violations of the regulations. As with any digital platform, there are elements of a setup for technology required by the learner, and they will be required to complete a technical check. To support with this, we will be supplying the guidance, videos, and top tips to enable the learner to move through smoothly. We are excited by the potential of this new addition to the NCFE portfolio, and we look forward to sharing more information in the near future when it is safe to do so. We are also aware of reports in the trade media regarding a potential portfolio solution for apprentices who are unable to access their functional skills assessment due to the current pandemic. NCFE are doing everything they can to make as many options available for learners to enable them to achieve their functional skills qualification. However, we are aware of some apprentices being caught in a time-sensitive situation, and we will work with the Department for Education, Ofqual, other awarding organisations and EERF to provide a viable solution to this issue. Under the proposals, students and their training providers would submit evidence such as initial and on-programme assessments, marked mock documentation, evidence of teaching and learning through a learning platform, workshop or group sessions, and any one-to-one sessions with trainers. A professional discussion would then follow, and one organisation would then carry out a remote sample check to ensure that consistent and fair assessment judgments are being made by centres. This proposal is currently with Ofqual, who are now reviewing it, but we cannot say when a decision will be made. We will update you as soon as we have further news on that area. I now hand you back over to Paul.
Okay, thank you for that, David. That's really informative. So we have provided some key links to many of the documents and guides that we've referred to in today's webinar, including the main blueprint document. All of the links to key documents on the webinar will be circulated in a post-webinar email, which will be sent to the email address that you registered with on the webinar today. So, as I alluded to at the beginning of the webinar, you've hopefully been able to post some questions into the chat box during the duration of the webinar. If you haven't, if you just want to take a minute or two now just to post those questions in, and at the end of the webinar we will take a summary of those questions and we will add them to our main adaptations FAQ, and a link will come out in the post-webinar email. Okay, in terms of further support and information, just a reminder to regularly check the COVID Hub on our website at the address below. If you'd like more information or support, you can email customer support at ncfe.org.uk, or you can call on 0191 239 8000. Alternatively, you can talk to your NCFE account executive. Thank you for listening to the webinar today. We hope you found it helpful. Please be assured that we will do all we reasonably can to help, support and guide you through the coming year. From everyone at NCFE, thank you and stay safe.